Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Eva and I do honest, unfiltered reviews of all different types of makeup. Lately, it's been a lot of luxury, but I also do indie brands, budget brands, drugstore, everything in between. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I would appreciate if you hit the subscribe button. Today, I have another very luxury makeup review demo for you. We are going to be talking all about the new CLE De Peau Holiday 2023 collection. Now, this launched at select retailers last week. I got mine from Neiman Marcus. Hot tip, if you sign up for the Neiman Marcus newsletter, you do get 15% off your first purchase, and it includes CLE De Peau. So I will have the Neiman Marcus link down below, and then any other retailers that carry this, I will have linked below, and once they launch elsewhere, I'll just continue to add to the description. But a little bit more about this launch, if you are not familiar, this is their Holiday 2023 like mermaid inspired collection. I will go ahead and put photos on the screen of what the outer packaging looks like up close, just because of that glare from my light. You might not be able to see it super well. I did already play around with these, so unfortunately some of the actual imprints of the inside of the product have been messed with because I wanted to use the product. But I did also take some footage of the Visions of Radiance eyeshadow palette before I touched it. So I will insert that right here. You can see the really pretty overspray of the firework and then the little fish imprints. So that is the Visions of Radiance CLE De Peau eyeshadow palette. This retails for a painful $110. Again, Neiman Marcus, use that coupon code. And the other item I picked up is one of their Luminizing face enhancers in the new shade 106 Dawn of Destiny. Now, these are just the most beautiful highlighters ever. This particular shade is just absolutely stunning. Again, might be hard to pick up on camera. I'm still, new to YouTube and trying to figure out the best lighting situation, but I will also insert an image on the screen. But it is a beautiful mix of pastels. So we have like a pastel yellow, a pastel pink, and then a seafoam green. And this retails for $95. Yes, we're acknowledging that we are investing a lot in luxury beauty lately. Let's go through the website descriptions of each of the product before we get into swatches and trying them on. Okay, so a little bit more about this eyeshadow quad. The claim is that it is a hybrid of makeup and skincare that highlights and defines eyes with elegant color for a natural radiant finish, enhances natural eye contours with light reflecting technology, primes eyes for smoothness and moisture that lasts 8 hours, delivers fresh, long-lasting color and texture for up to 12 hours. Now, I did do a wear test on this palette yesterday, and I'm here to tell you that it did last all day. There was not fading, there was not creasing. They did perform really beautifully throughout the day. Something that's interesting about these eye quads is they all come with what they refer to as a primer shade. So in this case here, it is this one that has the little fish indent on it. And the way that you're instructed to use it is to dispense the primer onto your lid using the sponge tip or a finger to apply that everywhere before applying the other powder shadows. So when I applied this yesterday, I did not realize that was a primer and I used it as a topper, which still looked beautiful, but I did not use it as intended. So today we're going to use it actually as a primer. Before we get into getting these products on our eyes, I did want to touch on something that did bum me out, and that is that the fireworks that are on 3 of the shades are just an overspray. which I find really disappointing. Like, my expectation with a luxury brand is they're not going to use overspray. They're going to actually like indent the product and use the other color in the shadow, if that makes sense. Like, I'm thinking about the recent Chanel blushes, which I will insert on the screen. I do not have them, but those are not oversprays. Those are actually like other colors indented into the product. So immediately that was a disappointment, because for that amount of money, I would expect better. So I did want to bring that up immediately as something that I was super bummed out about, because now that I've used the palette ones, like the overspray of the orange is completely gone, and then the pink one's very faded. Before we get these applied to the eyes, let's look at the swatches. Here we have the primer shade, and then the other 3 shades here, 1 swatch each. Talking about those swatches a little bit more, the shadows are very soft and silky, and they're not overly pigmented. Something to keep in mind is CLE De Peau is a Japanese brand. If you're unfamiliar with Japanese cosmetics, they tend to have more of a lighter wash of color for the eyeshadows. So if that is not your style and you want shadows that are going to pack a punch, this eyeshadow palette is not for you. But if you want something that's silky, beautiful, soft, and you're okay with a little bit more of a subtle color, this could be something you're interested in. When I was swatching these, I did want to talk about the texture of that primer. It feels like a ColourPop Super Shock shadow. Once a ColourPop Super Shock shadow has been in your collection for like a little more than a year. So it's drier than a Super Shock, but it is definitely a different texture than those powder shadows. I'm gonna go ahead and get the eyes primed, and then we will go in with the shadows. I have zoomed you in for the eyeshadow application. Starting off with that primer, I'm gonna go ahead and apply it with my finger, and now the cute little fish indentations are almost all the way gone, which is sad. So just working this across the lid. I'm actually gonna use the mirror that it came with. It has a little bit of shimmer in it that seems to have like pink and gold reflex, which this is my first time using an eye primer that actually has sparkle in it. We now have the primer on the eyes. It is way more pigmented than I would have expected. Like, it did really brighten up the eye area. Okay, now for all over lid color. I think I'm gonna do a wash of the orange all over the lid, and then I'm gonna do the pink, and then we will add that brown to the crease. For the all over lid shade, I'm just going in with this random Nabla Cosmetics flat shader brush. And there's not a lot of fallout, which is great. And it does seem to be like adhering to that primer well. I think this brush is too stiff. I'm gonna go in with my What's Up Beauty brush instead. Yeah, that is applying so much better. And this is the What's Up Beauty R106, and they are really affordable brushes that are made in Japan. Okay, very, very pretty. I'm gonna apply just another layer. Here we go with the orange, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go in and do the other eye as well. I have to say that primer makes such a big difference, because yesterday, again, when I was confused and didn't realize it was a primer, I just used my normal Urban Decay primer, and this primer is really making the colors pop, and it's definitely because of that shimmer in it. It's just adding extra dimension to the shades. Okay, so here we have the orange on the lid. Now let's go in with the pink. I'm trying to decide how I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to use the same brush. I'm just wiping it off, and then take the pink and kind of just concentrate it on the outer half of the lid. Very pretty. Okay, we have the pink on the outer half. I'll need to blend it all together at the end, but now going in with that brown shade here, we're going to put that in the crease. I am going to be careful because from yesterday when I used it, that shadow was like way more pigmented than I was expecting. So I'm going in with this Luxe Soft Definer from Zoeva, and I'm just gonna work that through the crease gently. Wow, that just adds such a nice amount of depth to it. So pretty. These blend really nicely together, and more importantly, they layer really well together. Especially if you are someone over the age of 30 who has aging eyelids like I do, these are very flattering. They're not going to emphasize wrinkles and texture like a lot of shimmer shadows can do. These are very, very flattering, and one of the more flattering formulas for older eyelids, if you will. Now I'm going in with my Zoeva Soft Crease. That was the definer, and I'm just doing windshield wiper motions back and forth, trying to blend everything together. Here are the shadows blended out. And to quote one of my favorite YouTubers, Jen Phelps, I'm a makeup enthusiast, not a makeup artist. So I am well aware this does not look professionally done, but I am still on my eyeshadow journey of learning the best ways to apply eyeshadow. So just keep in mind when you're watching my channel, I don't claim to be a professional makeup artist, nor will you learn any skills from me. Definitely check out like Makeup Geek's channel if you're interested in good eyeshadow application tutorials. Okay, here is the look. I think it's so pretty for my eye color of blue. It really makes the shadows pop, again, because it's on the other side of the color wheel. I'm going to take another brush though and just kind of diffuse some of the shadow below to connect it. Okay, so here we are with the eye look. I like it so much better today than I did yesterday. And I think the key is actually using that primer to create that extra dimension and shimmer on the eyes. I'm going to apply a little bit of liner and mascara, and then we're going to come back and talk about the highlighter. Here we are with mascara and a little bit of liner. And before we move over to the highlighter, I did want to mention that the CLE De Peau quads are refillable. So this particular one, you can't just buy the case separately. For the normal lineup, you can, but if you wanted to, you could pop out the eyeshadows and then reuse this case with a different CLE De Peau palette. I kind of think the whole refillable thing is pretty gimmicky in my opinion, because I guess there are some makeup minimalists who are also spending this much money on eyeshadow palettes where maybe they would actually like finish the palette before getting another shade. But I think if you're spending that much money on an eyeshadow palette, you're probably a collector and therefore aren't going to have use for like a little quad that's not actually in a case. But those are just my thoughts. Moving into the highlighter, this retails for $95. Yes, I know it's ridiculously expensive. Okay, end of day editing Eva here. Excuse the greasy hair. Something is very bizarre. So when I went to look up the image for 106 Dawn of Destiny, all of the images online are showing a cooler toned, like pinky purple shade for 106. On the CLE De Peau website, the image that matches my product, my illuminator that I have, is called Radiant Aurora. But the product I have is labeled on the back as 106 Dawn of Destiny. So I am thinking what happened is they mixed up the product images on their site and the product images they sent the retailers. I think they reversed them because I ordered 106 Dawn of Destiny and I like checked my order confirmation, and again, the outer packaging and the physical component both say 106 Dawn of Destiny, but the image is for a different illuminating powder. So something is amiss. I just wanted to call that out, that if you are interested in picking up this particular shade, I am fairly certain it is 106 Dawn of Destiny, but the images online are reversed. So the images of Radiant Aurora are actually Dawn of Destiny and vice versa. Sorry I don't have more information, but I did want to call that out, that if you are looking to purchase this, my links below will take you to what I believe is the proper illuminating face powder, but the image is going to be incorrect. Hopefully they fix it soon because that's super confusing, but I did want to come here and call that out as soon as I noticed it during editing. The packaging quality on both of these, I should mention, is nice. It's not overly heavy, but it's not cheap feeling. It's like a little weighty, but not, it feels luxe is what I'm trying to say. It's not like the Merit Beauty packaging where those felt very, the solo shadows looked beautiful with that gold top, but they were just so lightweight they felt a little cheap. This does have some weight to it, even though yes, it is plastic. And again, on the outer packaging, we have that mermaid, and then the brush that comes with the face illuminators is really high quality. This is not your typical brush that you get in a compact. So I did want to mention this is actually like a usable brush. Now for application, I am just going in, I'm trying to swirl. The one thing about this brush is it is quite dense, so it does pick up a lot of the product. So just be mindful of that. Now for application, I'm just going to go in right here. Oh, that is pretty. Oh, that is just so pretty. It does have a little bit of a fragrance, I did want to mention, but it's like a very subtle fruity fragrance. It's not like the Dior, you know, fragrance products where they smell like potpourri. I'm going to build this up just so you can really see it on camera. So pretty. That is really, really pretty and like very blinding. It is interesting because the Clé de Peau highlighters are so blinding, but then the eyeshadows are a little bit more subtle. I do want to show you what it also looks like on the finger. Like that is a very, very, very vivid highlighter. I'm going to blend this out a little bit though, because it's just got to diffuse it a tiny bit, but dang, that is blinding. Very pretty. Love, love the highlighter. I will be back in like 5-ish hours to show you how everything's been wearing throughout the day and then recap with final thoughts. So I will catch you soon. Hello, we are at the end of the day. We are here around 11 hours later. I have done a full work day. I have done a workout, and here is what the makeup is still looking like. Now, wanted to quickly touch on my thoughts on the eyeshadow palette before we talk about the highlighter and I show you how this highlighter compares to last season's limited edition shade. So the eye look wore really, really beautifully throughout the day. There isn't fading, there's no creasing, and that's even after I did a workout. So the quality is what I would expect from a Clé de Peau eyeshadow quad. Performs very similar to one of the permanent ones that I picked up in their permanent lineup. So if you're already familiar with the Clé de Peau eyeshadow palettes, I would say the quality is there, definitely. Now, as far as the color story itself, I do think it's fun, and I do like that they mix it up and didn't do traditional holiday colors, but for the price point, I would have expected them to not use an overspray, as I touched on earlier. That's my biggest critique of the palette. I also don't think it's anything unique. I would not recommend picking this up for $110. If you are inclined and you're like really tempted because it's limited edition, I would say definitely sign up for the Neiman Marcus emails, as I mentioned, to get 15% off and shop my link down below. That's how I would recommend picking it up, but I would not recommend paying full price for it just because it's not that special. It's good quality, but it's not that special. And I think there are way more unique and exciting limited edition holiday collections coming out in the eyeshadow category that you'll want to save your money on. Now for the highlighter. Okay, the highlighter just has gotten better throughout the day somehow. It's just continued to really melt in my skin. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. It's still somewhat natural looking with a really beautiful shine and sheen. So the highlighter, even though it is ridiculously priced, I would say if you're going to pick up one item, pick this up. And again, that brush is such good quality as well. So this one I would give a thumbs up to if, of course, you have the budget and want to spend that amount. I do find that it is really, really high quality and like one of the better highlighters on the market for sure. Now, before I let you go, I did want to do some comparisons to last year's highlighter palette. I have shade 105 Shimmering Orb, and the new one is 106 Dawn of Destiny. Now I'm going to show you up close last year's shade 105 compared to this year's shade, and ignore the half a manicure. I'm mid manicure here. Okay, so up close, I know the glare is really bad and you can see my camera, so I do apologize for that, but you can see that last year's has more purple and blue, whereas this year's is a little bit warmer toned because it has more of those peach shades. I'm going to insert arm swatches here so you can see what they look like on the arm up close. Here we have the new shade 106, and this is last year's shade 105. Looking at the two shades, they are nearly identical. The only difference I notice is the amount of shimmer. I do notice a lot more shimmer particles in last year's launch compared to this year's, so 105 compared to 106, but the overall like undertone is nearly identical. I would say if you have last year's, you absolutely do not need to pick up this year's. It is so, so similar and it feels pretty silly to pick up this year. So I am feeling a little bit of a fool because the eyeshadow palette was nice and amazing quality, but like nothing revolutionary. And then the powder is stunning, but I basically already own it. So keep that in mind if you are interested in picking up the collection. I hope this video was helpful in helping you make your purchasing decisions. I will have all of the links down below. These are available at different retailers, so I will link all the retailers as they become available. And if you choose to shop my links, I really appreciate it. It helps my channel because I am not yet monetized. So that is the only way I'm able to earn a little bit of money to put back into buying more products to review. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I hope you decide to tune in to my next video. Thanks so much.